polish your balls?
Man, this alley does everything.
Oh, I don't work for the alley.
So yeah, let's talk about bowling in The Simpsons. First, do you know they made a Simpsons Bowling arcade game published by Konami? I knew they made a skateboarding and wrestling game, but I didn't know about this one. And apparently it's better than those two games. But that's not hard for you to accomplish. Of course, this was back when they actually made Simpsons games, before EA got the exclusivity rights to them, and decided to only milk whales with a crummy mobile game for the past 15 years. Remake hit it around, you cowards! Now let's talk about bowling on the actual show. Do you know they made a sequel episode to Life on the Fast Lane? The episode where Marge almost cheats on Homer with the bowling instructor Jacques? Yeah, and it's actually a really good episode. It's in season 34, just a couple episodes after another one involving bowling. Bowling is probably the most common sport to see in The Simpsons, with it being Homer's sport of choice. And he bowled a perfect 300 once, which only 1 in 11,500 people have ever done. And if you don't think that's impressive, Maggie has also done it. Yes, a 1-year-old has bowled a perfect game. What have you done with your life? And they're not even the only good bowlers in the family. Marge is also great at bowling. Even getting onto the Wall of Fame. Bowling seems to be the preferred sport of a lot of people in Springfield, with plenty of familiar faces competing in the bowling league. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, Simpsons Bowling Teams. While I'm no stranger to worst to best videos, I usually do episodes of the show, as opposed to something like this. And why am I doing this? Well, because someone requested it in the comments. Shout out to Chad9168 for the suggestion. And not only is it the first video suggestion I can recall getting, this concept also piqued my curiosity. At first I thought I can't make a video about this. They only had one episode of Bowling Teams, and there was like 6 of them. I thought maybe I could pivot to making a worst to best about sports episodes to compensate, but that's when I decided to look up Simpsons Bowling Teams. And in doing that, I found out they made another bowling team episode, which practically doubles the amount of teams. And that's when I thought I could make a video about this. Let's go. But before I begin, I should mention a couple of things. First, I'm not a bowling expert. I only went bowling once when I was like 12. So I'm just speculating based upon what I know about the Simpsons characters. And don't take this list too seriously. I'm literally ranking all these teams based on 2 episodes and a couple of clips, most of which you don't actually see the teams bowling. Secondly, I'm not doing every bowling team mentioned. Mostly because there's a bunch of teams made for a tournament that you see no members from. So I can't really judge how good these teams are. But props to the old Spare Me team for making it to the semifinals of the tournament. I'm also not counting teams of random characters you see in the background, because this is the only time you see them. And they're really there just to fill out the scene. And lastly, there's one thing I should mention about something involving this bowling league. And that is seemingly cheating is allowed, because numerous teams are shown cheating during the games, without facing any repercussions for it. And this will affect the list. Clearly bowling skill is more important, but for most of the teams, we barely actually see them bowling, if at all. So this is what I'm working with. Now let's get to the list. Number 16 is the Weaklings, with a team of Wendell, Hans Moleman, the Old Jewish Man, and the squeaky voiced teen. This was an easy choice for the bottom. They are literally referred to as the worst team in the league. It's also filled with some of the most feeble characters in Springfield, which obviously is how they got their team name. It really couldn't have been any other team. They are intentionally the worst.
So that's why you abandoned us and made us lose to the worst team in the league.
Good game, bitches.
Number 15 is the Rollin' Oldies, with the team of Grandpa Simpson, Jasper, Hans Moleman, and the Old Jewish Man. This team has 2 members that made up the worst team in the league. Also, Grandpa and Jasper aren't that better off when it comes to being feeble characters. They do have good scores in the end, with it showing Mo cheating to change the scoreboard, but in actuality, he was just fixing it, as the scoreboard was wrong. The Pin Pal score should already have been 807. Go ahead, add up the numbers. I'll wait. So yeah, in the end, I don't think this team was supposed to be that good. Number 14 is the Number Crunchers, with the team of Beth, Harold, and Scott. These three are depicted as a group of losers, and since we don't see them bowl, this leads me to assume they aren't actually good at bowling. But Lisa does teach them how to study their opponents, to psychologically affect how they would play against Number Crunchers, which gives them a small boost in the rankings, but not having a fourth member is a problem, and might be one of the only rules the league actually enforces. Chief Wiggum literally forfeited when his team lost their fourth member, and when Carl didn't focus on the game, the Pin Pals lost to the Weaklings, the worst team in the league. So a fourth member drastically affects teams, and can't be overlooked. At least with other teams that have 3 members, I could speculate who could join their team. But these people are one-time characters, and aren't even from Springfield. These losers are from Shelbyville. The only person I could think about joining their team is Lisa, which children are allowed in the league, seen with Wendell and Milhouse. And she might be decent, if bowling skill is genetic, since Homer, Maggie, and Marge are good bowlers. And Grandpa seems to be decent at the game, but even if this team had Lisa, I wouldn't feel confident putting them any higher. Number 13 is the One and Dones, with a team of Baron von Kisselot, Senor Ding Dong, Goose Gladwell, and some random guy. He's probably a reference to an older episode, but I couldn't find out who he is. And I tried looking him up. The Simpsons wikis definitely didn't know who he was. This team is made up of one-time characters, with 2 of them only being in one scene, leading them to be a mystery for me. And not knowing is a problem. All I can really say is that Baron von Kisselot looks to be older, so probably not in his peak physical capabilities. Goose Gladwell and Senior Ding Dong seem to be fine. We see Gladwell throwing a strike, and this last guy looks athletic, I guess. So yeah, I think 13 is a decent spot for them. Number 12 is Selma's Exes, with Sideshow Bob, Disco Stu, and Fit Tony? This one actually racks my brain, because look at him, he's not fat. So this has to be Fit Tony, the person who took over after Fat Tony died. And if you didn't know that, surprise! Don't worry, it was a crummy episode with a lazy ending replacing him. But Fit Tony does replace Fat Tony, and then gained a bunch of weight becoming Fat Tony. And this Fat Tony is the one who married Selma, when he was fat. So why is he fit here? But the biggest problem with Fat Tony in this episode is we see Fat Tony, and his team literally plays Selma's Exes in the first round. What the hell is going on here? Because Fit Tony only met Selma after Fat Tony died and he became Fat Tony. So the only conclusion I could come to is after he was dumped by Selma, Fat Tony temporarily becomes Fit Tony again and joined this bowling team. And the real Fat Tony has come back to life to go bowling. Which I would typically say is too ludicrous. But Jesus and Satan are shown in this bowling alley, so anything is possible. Now when it comes to the actual team, they seem decent. I would assume Fit Tony is the best member of the team, with Disco Stu being second. I mean, the dude spends all day dancing. He's probably an athletic beast. We also see him throw a strike. Sideshow Bob is shown on Bolorama's Wall of Fame, but it seems like that's for the baby instead of Bob. And the biggest problem with this team is, yet again, they don't have a fourth member. So if you had to be one of someone's exes to be on the team, this gives us only 3 known options: Troy McClure, Lionel Hutz, and Grandpa Simpson. And since they retired McClure and Hutz after Phil Harmon passed away, rest in peace, this would only leave Grandpa. But that's an issue in itself, because he's already on the Rollin' Oldies. While people have been shown to be on 2 different teams, it's never been in the same episode, like with the Rollin' Oldies and Selma's Exes. Now if you include just boyfriends and not marriages, Artie Ziff could be on this team, but it's Artie Ziff. He'd probably be more of a detriment than anything. So this team has problems, and that's why I put them in number 12. Number 11 is the Sidekicks, with Lou, Sideshow Mel, Smithers, and Milhouse. The biggest problem with this team is Milhouse, who's often depicted as a scrawny, weak wimp. Honestly, they could have put Milhouse on the Weaklings and he would have fit. so Milhouse is assumedly the worst member of the team, and is a detriment for this team going any higher. But the reason this team isn't any lower is because they made it to the quarterfinals of the bowling tournament, showing that they can still win in spite of Milhouse. Heck, we don't even know how well they did against the Pin Pals, since I'm pretty sure they had to forfeit. But in good faith, I can't put them higher on this list. Number 10 is the Channel 6 Wastelanders, with the team of Krusty, Kent Brockman, Bumblebee Man, and Arnie Pie in the sky. Well, he's not in the sky now, so I guess he's just Arnie Pie. This team seems like they're good at this sport. We have seen Krusty bowling on more than one occasion, which makes me think he's probably the best member of the team. For everyone else, we really don't know how good they are. But we do see Bumblebee Man score a strike. And they almost beat the Pin Pals, if I didn't hit the 7-10 split. So, I'll put them in the top 10. Number 9 is the Stereotypes, with the team of Luigi, Cletus, Groundskeeper Willie, and the Sea Captain. Their biggest claim to fame is being the first team we see to beat the Pin Pals, and one of only 3 teams ever shown to do it, along with the Holy Rollers and the Weaklings. Now granted, this one came because Mr. Burns was on the team, replacing Otto, but hey, a win's a win. Plus, Mr. Burns was on the team when the Pin Pals won the championship, meaning the Stereotypes had to have had a solid outing in this game.
Oh, they begged me to join their team. Begged me.
But with that being said, I can't put them any higher on this list. Number 8 is the Springfield Police Framers, with the team of Chief Wiggum, Eddie, Lou, and Snake. This team was presented second in the rankings before going up against the Pin Pals, and only lost to them when Snake was released from his cuffs and ran off, causing them to have to forfeit. But because of what Snake did, they only have 3 members for the team, which of course is an issue. If they could get Snake back, they would be solid, but he's a flight risk. If this team is based on cops and criminals, they could try to get Jedrick Tatum for the team, who is often depicted as one of the best athletes in town, or they could get Marge, who of course was a former cop and is an excellent bowler. But in the end, they're a 3-person team, which lowers them. But they were a high-ranking team, which can't be ignored, so they get the 8th spot. Number 7 is the Homewreckers, with the team of Jacques, Mindy Simmons, Laureline Lumpkin, and Princess Cashmere. Now, we don't see any of them bowl when they go against the Pen Pals, but the reason they're so high on this list is because of Jacques, who isn't just a great bowler, but is a great bowling trainer, to the point he taught Marge everything she knows about bowling, and is the reason she got onto the Wall of Fame, alongside him. And it's most likely that Mindy Simmons was already a good bowler, since she's presented as the hot female version of Homer, who shares all his interest. So with her on the team, and Jacques training Lorene and Princess Cashmere, there's no way this isn't a solid team. Number 6 is the DMV Regulation Kings, with the team of Patty, Selma, and 2 random guys. When it comes to this team, having 2 unnamed members who aren't Springfield regulars is problematic. Since I know nothing about them, I can't really speculate how good they are. And I initially thought Patty and Selma would be detriments to this team, because they're lifelong smokers, which would have an effect on their physical capabilities. But apparently that's not the case, as they're both showed on the Bowlerama's Wall of Fame, meaning they have to be great bowlers, leaving the biggest problem being not knowing anything about their teammates. But they were ranked 3rd in the standings before facing the Pin Pals, and later you see they have retaken the 3rd place spot. See, it's right there, right behind Smithers, right there. And this of course puts them higher on the list. Number 5 is the Legitimate Businessmen, with the real Fat Tony, Legs, Louie, and Johnny Tightlips. This is shown to be a solid team, as they made it to the finals of the bowling tournament. And since they are the Mafia, they fully utilize the cheating is allowed rule, shown here by the resurrected Fat Tony shooting a pin to make a strike, and it counting. Now one could argue it didn't count and he was just frustrated and shot the pin, but when we see Fat Tony in a different scene, he shoots the pins, which at least to me implies this is a common practice for him. And who's gonna tell Fat Tony no? I mean, he's been to hell and back again. Let the man bowl how he wants. Also a benefit being the Mafia does for the team is giving them a sheer intimidation value alone. they could just scare their opponents and have them forfeit. I mean, for most people, bowling isn't worth their life. But Fat Tony, he has nothing to lose. So yeah, they get into the top 5. Number 4 is Are They Reals? With the team of the Grumple, Cheesy McMayor, Satan, and O'Reilly the Leprechaun, which apparently is what this leprechaun's name is, at least according to the Simpsons fandom page, which is pretty accurate most of the time. Now, some might think this is rather high for a team we only saw for a second, and they didn't even win a game in the tournament. But hear me out here. First, they went up against the Holy Rollers, one of the best teams in the league, who are multiple-time league champions. Their loss is more a matter of bracket placement than anything else. I don't think the legitimate businessmen would have made it to the finals if they had to go up against the Holy Rollers. Now, why do I think this team is so good? It's simple, really. It's because cheating is allowed. O'Reilly is an actual leprechaun, so he can make his team have good luck when it comes to the pins, and maybe even make his opponents have bad luck. But I'm sure he really doesn't have to worry about his opponents, because they have Satan on their team, who could do any amount of demonic devilry to ensure his team wins. But if that was the case, how could they lose to the Holy Rollers? Because the Holy Rollers have God on their side, one of the only counters to Satan. And before someone goes on some religious tangent in the comments, either for or against religion, know one very important thing. I don't care. It doesn't matter what things are like outside the show. In this bowling alley, mystical beings and the resurrected come together to go bowling. Barney's Bowlerama doesn't play by the laws of man. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Now when it comes to Cheesy McMayor and the Grumple, they are a question mark for the team, but we see Cheesy McMayor score a strike, so there's that. But O'Reilly and Satan alone put this team high in the rankings. Number 3 is the Fun Bunch, with the team of Reynolds, Changstein, Beef Nut, and Bagel Man. This team is the main antagonist of the second bowling episode, hence the final bowling boss for the Pin Pals, and went up against him in the state finals, where they show incredible skill at bowling, and are also excellent at exploiting the cheating rule. Not just using unique technologically advanced balls to cheat, but are skilled at psychologically manipulating their opponents, shown by breaking down Mo to the point of tears, and exploiting Barney's alcoholism. Which Barney shows to be able to control alcohol? Again, they don't care about the laws of man. This is why Barney's on the Wall of Fame. So yeah, they made this team to be an elite bowling team, and I have to respect that for this list. Number 2 is the Pin Pals, with Homer, Mo, Otto, and Apu, and in the second iteration, Lenny, Carl, and Barney, with one-time members of Mr. Burns and Dan Gillick. Now some of you may be wondering, who the hell is Dan Gillick? He was a mob accountant in one episode and was Homer's neighbor, and Homer put him on a team to replace Otto, who had a mental breakdown, and he caused the Pin Pals to win. Now of course, the Pin Pals were going to be high on this list. They're the main characters, the heroes of the story, the ones that have to overcome all obstacles to win in the end. All of the main members have shown to be great at the sport. As mentioned before, Homer bowled a perfect 300 game, and that can't be ignored. Barney's on the Wall of Fame, and his family owns the bowling alley, which means he's probably been bowling since he was a child. Carl has been shown to extensively train just to be a better bowler, and at least in one game, Lenny had a better score than all 3 of them, which means he can hold his own on the team. Now of course, this was the second iteration. The first had Mo, Otto, and Apu. Mo had to be replaced because he developed carpal tunnel and became the team's coach instead. Apu couldn't commit to the team because of his large family and didn't have the time. And as previously mentioned, Otto had a mental breakdown. But all these men were shown to be dominant in the original Pin Pals. Heck, Homer, Mo, and Apu won the championship despite Mr. Burns being on their team. So if the Pin Pals are this good, why are they not number 1? Well, it's because of this team. Number 1, and the best Simpsons bowling team is the Holy Rollers, with the team of Reverend Lovejoy, Helen Lovejoy, Ned Flanders, and Maud Flanders, who eventually gets replaced by the Parson, and the team briefly has Rabbi Kristowski. Number 1 had to be the Holy Rollers. They have won the league 5 years in a row at one point, then won at least one additional time, beating the Pin Pals in the championship game, meaning they have 4 more championship wins than the Pin Pals, and that can't be ignored. And despite the fact that the Pin Pals have beaten them on multiple occasions, the Holy Rollers have beaten the Pin Pals too, so it's not like they're only dominant when the Pin Pals aren't around. And let's not forget, they have God on their side, who is willing to cheat for them and strike down their enemies, or at least give them a shock.
It's me, Ned.
Even with the loss of Maud Flanders, they are still a solid team. The Parson has been shown to be not as good as everyone else, but he does do well on his own, so he's a good replacement for her. The Holy Rollers were made to be the team to beat. They are the OG bowling final boss, and fully deserve the number 1 spot on this list. And that was the Simpsons Bowling Teams ranked from worst to best. If you have a different opinion, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you have any suggestions for Simpsons videos I should make, I'm all ears for those as well. And if you like this video, why not check out another one of my worst to best videos, or another video I made recently. If you really like this video and want to support us, consider becoming a patron, like these great people. If not, a like and subscribe goes a long way. Thanks for watching.